So this is Zia Hill's CF2 Murphy control panel. On the left was the Murphy panel, on the right is the aerial smart compressor. So I'm navigating through the smart compressor right now. Smart compressor controls only the compressor, and its trips go to the Murphy panel. The Murphy panel acts in a way as the master. You can see interstage pressures, temperatures, and all your cylinder temps and your output graphs. In this first segment, we'll be just covering navigation of all the screens. Here I'm showing you how to reset tags if the tags are lost after a download or whatever. So here I'm on unit 902 loading the P&ID tags. Now I'm covering the alarm screen. At this time, no current alarms. I can choose event history and see up to 1,000 events in the past, which are time stamped. We're going to have a look now at the main menu pages. There are 2 pages of main menu selections. Here we're looking at how to set the clock in the PLC and the HMI. You can log in with a legacy 13030. There's also an operator login, OPER 4500. You can see that I'm logged in. Now setting time, the PLC and the HMI. It takes a moment to load. Now setting the date and time. See the time's been updated, and on the info page you can see the latest version of software, run hours at the bottom. Now we're going to have a look at the alarm and shutdown set points. They can be changed at any time while the unit is running if you're logged in with the right credentials. You can see on the alarms the class on the bottom, A, C, P, A, all the time. C is when the value is raised above the set point and then drops below, for example, with suction pressure. And here you see the definition of the different classes. Now I'm just going to scroll through all the different alarm and trip set points. A lot of screens on this application, so it's best just to scroll through, get familiar with it, learn how to use it. You'll have all the tools you need for troubleshooting and adjusting. Now we're going to look at the scaling of the analog devices. You can see up in the top banner the machine is running across the line, so we can't make adjustment to scaling while the machine is running. You can only make adjustments when the machine is down. Now we're going to have a look at the shutdown snapshot pages. Anytime a shutdown occurs, we log every value and we log the first out and we timestamp it as what happens. It makes it excuse me easy to troubleshoot what was going on the machine at the time of the shutdown. You can see all values at that given time. Having a look at the next page. Now we're going to look at digital input status. Green, energized; red, de-energized. It's a helpful troubleshooting tool. You can see in the bottom left my VFD is ready. And on this page, kind of important, you can see the status of the scrubbers. Top left, you see 3 reds with a green up top. That means there's no liquid in the scrubber. If you look at scrubber 3, we have a bed in the scrubber. Scrolling on through the rest of the digital inputs, includes all run status, switch status. Now we're looking at 4 to 20 milliamp inputs. You can see my process cooler fan speed over on the right. It's close to 20 milliamps. That means it's running full speed right now. Now temperature status, RTDs. Here, if you saw a really high value, you'd mean your RTD has got a loose wire or disconnected. Now I'm just going to scroll you through the different process overview pages, which is going to be the prime area where the operator is looking at the machine. Up top you see status of motors, valves, and in the middle section you see different temperatures and pressures that are critical to the machine. Now I'm going to go into the loading section. So top left you see suction pressure controller. It is enabled and we're running on the suction pressure controller at this time. We have 100% output. When I'm going to load a compressor fully, I just choose a set point about 5 above the low trip and it will load the compressor 100%. If you're running on VFD, you can set a set point where you want the machine to run. Since we're running across the line, we are fully loaded 100%. Back to my loading overview, you see below is my discharge pressure controller. I can select a value down below current and you'll see the PID react when I enable it. So set point is below process variable. I turn it on. You can see in the middle in the low selector we were running on discharge. I turned it off. Now back on suction, back to 100%. The two pressure controllers out the lowest output into a low selector. The lowest of the two then gets outputted to the recycle valve and the VFD if we're running in VFD. You also have the choice to put your outputs in manual. Suction control valve. Suction control valve is used to hold the suction pressure at a steady state on the machine. It can be tuned to avoid disruptions. You tune it up fast enough. If you have a surge on the suction header, the suction control valve could overcome the surge and keep the pressure at a good state to keep the unit running. You can see it's achieving its desired output pretty well there. Have a steady output. You can also place the suction controller in manual. Sometimes it's helpful when you're having a lot of disturbance on the suction header. You could put it in manual and fight off the disturbance a bit. When we switch from auto to manual, it is bumpless. Now to the cooling. On the far left are your 3 louvers for each stage, PID for each one. You can see process variable and set point. You can go inside the PID and change your set point, deadband, and your PI and D settings. Going into stage 2, PID. Set point up top. Control variable at the very bottom. Output. Here I'm going to put the fan in manual. You'll see that it will copy the auto set point over into the manual, and it's bumpless as well. You see how the auto set point got copied into the touch button. I'm going to try to slow it down, and you'll see the 98 in the commanded speed back to auto, back to 100%. In this next segment, we're going to start the machine, and I want you to pay attention to the banner up top. It's going to tell you every state that the machine is going through as it does an automatic start. It tells you when we're opening the valves with a countdown. If the valve doesn't open in time, we'll create a trip. So you see it's taking quite a time for the recycle block valve to open. Probably a problem with the regulator. Now we're opening recycle, now bypass. Going to check for our temperature permissive before we try to start the main motor. Starting the cooler fan, starting the oil cooler fan, blowers for main motor, lube system for main motor, fan for cooling system, now starting the main drive motor, main drive motor will start and run up to 250 RPM, which gives us ability to load. So you touch the green enable capacity load button to put the gas in the machine. Now we're loading, so we're going to close bypass. Bypass block valve. Now we're up on the VFD running. When I go to comp loading, you can see that my suction controller is outputting. Also on the cooling fan, starting to ramp up. So you can see we're at like 50% now. So my recycle valve's already fully closed. I'm going to switch the VFD into manual. You'll see the value copy into the button. Now I'll put in another speed, enter it, and you'll see 600 go to the commanded speed. Back to auto. And again, I use a 35 set point, which is about 5 above the low trip for full loading. Now we're almost 100% loaded, and we went across the line. So it'll run a 60-second timer to ensure that we get across the line. See that our discharge pressure is up close to 1150 or so. We're now across the line, as you can see up in the banner, and you see the red box where we have no more adjustment for the main motor. In the next segment, we're going to discuss manual override. Manual override can only be used when the machine is not running. You can test any motor or any output, discrete or analog, in manual override. So you get logged in, a legacy 13030. You see, I logged in Murphy there. Now I'm going to touch the yellow bar to activate output forcing. Now I'm going to touch the timer on the left. You have to have that on. Now I can turn on any output. So I'm turning on the compressor lube oil pump. I'm going to navigate to digital input status to make sure it's running. There I see my compressor lube pump is running. Navigate back to manual override, which is on the second page. And I see I have plenty of time left. I can touch this button and gain 15 minutes anytime I touch it. Now I've turned the pump off. Now I'm disabling manual override over on the right. Unit's ready to start. In this segment, we're looking at timers and miscellaneous. So up top, default is generally 15 pounds for the purge, and also for your manual depressurization set point, you'll get a yellow pop-up that tells you if you need to depressurize or if you need to purge, and you have those two set points related to that. You'll see also other set points related to valve failure time. So if your bypass valve doesn't open in 30 seconds, you'll get a trip. And back again, you can see where to set the time in the PLC. This segment, I'm showing you test mode. You can only use test mode when the motor's running. So I started test mode and I selected global. You can see up top left, you're in test mode, the blinking yellow light. All these values are selected, like you can create a trip and it will not trip the unit. It will pop up the message on the alarm display, then you acknowledge the alarm, you can come out of test mode. You can do analog and digital. So I can go into the input status, select one of those. No alarm at this moment. So I'm going to create a trip on VFD fault. So you see that we had a VFD fault, but it didn't trip the unit. Now I have to acknowledge the fault and I can turn off test mode. Go back to the history, you can see when the fault occurred. Stop test mode.